Symmetra is one of the worst characters of Overwatch, and not necessarily because her win rates are very low. Actually, they're pretty reasonable, but the issue is that she is far too specific. I love playing her, but the times that she's valuable is really only on the defending team and only really for the first objective point, as the teleporter ultimate just sort of turns out to be pointless afterwards. So as of today on the PTR, a complete rework for Symmetra is live. Now in this video, I'm going to be showing you everything that you need to know about Symmetra, as well as explain all of the changes made to her. Now I am currently queued up with some AI right here. We're also going up against some computers, just mainly because if you currently try to play quick match or any of the other game modes, pretty much all of the opposing players are trying to lock in Symmetra as soon as possible, which is a little bit of a pain. Anyhow, first and foremost, we got a little bit of a change, and apparently I accidentally killed Anna. We got a little bit of a change to my left mouse button click, and as you may notice right there, the range on it is a little bit longer. It went up from 5 meters up to 7 meters, which definitely is noticeable when you are playing in the game. You can actually realize it rather early on, as you will just simply lock onto targets a little bit faster, but also if characters are trying to run away, you can do a little bit more work with it, and it turns out that we just managed to do so, and we cleaned up the entire first objective point. So that's the very first bit right here. Basic attack is a little bit more powerful and will help out a lot more in attack. And that's really the goal of these changes. The goal of like this rework, at the very least from the video that Jeff Kaplan made, the designer on Overwatch, like the lead designer of Overwatch, is to make the hero significantly more useful in attacking team as well as in defensive teams besides the first objective. So normally in a game, you would switch out at this point in time. Now, I've got a couple of other changes. I haven't used them so far on purpose. Main reason is that I want to be showing you them right now. So we got a new E ability. The previous one where we generate shields for our opponent, or for our allies rather, where I can put that on an ally and I can just sort of grant them 25 additional shielding. That one is gone, as the ability sort of just feels tedious. It wasn't really that fun and not that impactful. And while it technically is good for her win rates, it really wasn't a fun ability. So instead what we got is going to be a so-called shield barrier type of thing that I can throw forward. And the funny thing about it is that it's actually surprisingly helpful. And it kind of feels like running sort of like a mini Reinhardt in the games that I've played so far. So let me show you. I basically can project a shield just like that. It's gonna block incoming damage if enemies try to shoot at it. And it's gonna move forward slowly but surely. The cooldown is 10 seconds. So it's actually quite... Oh man. It's actually quite a long cooldown. And it makes for a rather interesting setup. Now let's talk about the other changes, because we are the very first hero in the game right now that got 2 ultimates. So when you try and put down your ultimate, this is going to be the default teleporter that we've had since the very beginning. Still very, very good, still very helpful, but we can now press Q again, or if you're on a console, just the other ultimate button, whichever you got set up, and you can change it up for this shield generator. So what I can do is put this thing down. Now that is obviously not the ideal position, but what happens is that all of my allies that get close to this thing right here, this shield generator, they will gain 75 shielding in total. And this thing will actually persist. So basically, if allies will now reinforce to the checkpoint right now towards the objective, they will immediately get past this objective thing right here, and they will gain an additional 75 shielding. Very, very, very helpful. Besides that, both of the ultimates actually got a bit of a health increase, or I guess, the teleporter got a health increase. It now has 350 shields and 50 base health, rather than the previous 200 HP and 0 shielding that it had in the past. So it's gonna be a little bit more tricky to try and get the characters to kill the teleporters as well as the shield generator, and it just makes for a more powerful setup in that regard. And honestly, in the games that I have played with her so far, it's very noticeable that all of a sudden, because of that ulti, it's totally viable to play her on attack. I mean, we're granting 75 shields to each and every reinforcing character right now. Obviously, it doesn't actually, like, you need to sort of like have it killed, I suppose, before you can really get the main use off of it in the third objective. Because right now, as soon as we get this checkpoint, my allies are gonna spawn right over there, and they won't be able to get the benefit from that shield generator, or at the very least, I don't think so. It has about a 100-meter radius, and it also does go through line of sight. So say I'm a character who is running, basically right over here, or really, I will probably already get the benefits of it right over here or so, without being in line of sight. You can put it, across windows, you can put it outside of buildings or inside of buildings, and it will go through all of the walls, and it will still benefit all of your allies, really making a super powerful ulti. Then next up, we also got a minor change, more of like a quality of life change really, to the way my turrets work. So instead of starting off with 3 of them, and you're desperately trying your very best, and there we do go, by the way. My shield generator has returned now that we are going to be grabbing this next checkpoint. Very, very helpful, by the way. We can use this to push onwards. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and put it up. But rather than starting off with the default... Whew, it's going to take her quite a little while to kill it. Very good. Rather than starting off with the default of 3 turrets, we're going to be starting off with 6 instead. And we still have the maximum of being able to put 6 down as well. So in particular, you know, instead of like rushing towards the defensive position, for example, and really trying to get the turrets down as soon as possible, you can just sort of get them down rather easily. And on top of that, the countdown, the cooldown of the turrets being available has been reduced from 12 seconds down to 10 seconds. And you will always be able to charge up to a maximum of 10, which is really, really very good. And really what it all comes down to is you're just a more well-rounded, powerful character. I wouldn't be surprised if she's going to be a little bit more on the, you know, overpowered end, because that ultimate, in particular the shield generator one, right? That one is relatively similar to how Symmetra, sort of like, I guess the ultimate sort of feels similar to Lucia's ultimate. Lucia's ultimate obviously extremely powerful, and obviously it's going to give you more healing, but this is going to help out so much when you're trying to really push forward with your allies. And since you get the return of the ulti after getting to the next checkpoint, you're gonna be able to just sort of move that shield generator, you know, all over the map. And I wouldn't be surprised if at the competitive scene, the shield generator is going to be, and Symmetra for that matter, is going to be a very, very, very powerful pick. We got a very good shield that can really, you know, aid you in pushing into objectives, but also defend a whole lot more easily. And then we got an ultimate that basically provides the entire team with 75 additional shielding. That's a huge amount of shielding, and it will really... I mean, if you put it in a correct position, right, where your allies are going to be reinforcing from, you can basically guarantee them all to have a little bit more sustain. And with that, we're going to be able to push to the victory. A little bit of a, you know, a reasonable killing streak right there. Definitely not as bad as we sometimes see. And we also managed to get the play of the game against bots. Man, the dream is still alive. Always wanted to do this. But you can really notice though, like the range on the basic attack, it's definitely something you will very quickly notice when you are playing a game. It just grabs onto a target a little bit easier, and it follows them around a little bit easier as well. Wow. Thank you, team. I haven't even upvoted myself. Alrighty, so we have swapped sides, and as you can see, we immediately got the 6 turrets available. And instead of, you know, going through the headache of immediately like pressing the E button on all of your allies and trying to make sure that they all get their shielding up, you really can just, you know, move towards the objective just like everyone else. Just sort of take it easy, start setting up your turrets, and instead of like trying to rush there, as you do want to try and maximize the cooldowns, I suppose, and, you know, really get as many turrets out as possible, it is just, you know, in particular the earlier stage of the game are just a little bit more comfortable to play. Now in this particular instance, we're gonna be defending on King's Row, and really what it is up to right now for pretty much all of the competitive players in the game is to figure out what objectives are good for the shield generator. So you gotta keep in mind, a little nuke like right here is going to aid your allies very, very easily and do a lot of help. You can put it right over here as well, but that one is a little bit easier to attack into, and I think the superior position will probably be right here. And the question is the teleporter ulti even powerful enough to even go for that one in the very first objective? I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that it is not. Now it looks like they've got a Roadhog on their team. I'm gonna be backing off for just a little bit. I'll go ahead and send over my shield barrier, and really you can see like it's so helpful. It is so very, very powerful, and it will really give us a, you know, a much more powerful all-round setup on Symmetra. I mean, I've played her a couple of games so far on the defending team as well as on the attacking team, and she plays out differently, but she still plays very much so like Symmetra. Now, she already was my most powerful character in the game. I actually have got the highest win rate on her for some reason. I mean, I played the game quite a little bit, but my win rates on Symmetra are still higher than any other hero out there. And I'm assuming that this is just going to make her more powerful, right? This is just making her even stronger than she already was. But the nice thing is that you will never get into a game once again where, you know, the opposing team is just going to, you know, have an easy day because you are, you know, playing Symmetra and you are, you know, not playing the ideal hero for that point. Right now, Symmetras are going to be helpful in each and every situation, I suppose, and you don't really have to worry too much anymore about, you know, picking the hero and feeling guilty, sort of, for picking the hero, which really is like a massive issue, obviously. If you're like a Symmetra main, you know, it now actually is a viable option, whereas in the past, obviously, that was just something that was absolutely unheard of. You can see though, like the cooldown of my turrets, the speed at which they are available again is quite noticeable as well. One thing to note about the projected shield, is that what it's called? Hold on. It's called the Photon Barrier. There we go. It's very helpful, but you gotta keep in mind, if like you're moving towards the opposing team and they are moving towards you, you're not really gonna get all too much help out of it. Now right there, for example, right? I would have 100% of the time in the previous version lost track of where my ally or the opposing hero was at. 7 meters versus 5 is very noticeable as well. Very, very, very noticeable. And right now, whenever any of my allies die, they will immediately start getting that additional shielding. And you can see, Rotor obviously got a ton of health here by default. But since it goes through the line of sight, and since you don't need to, like, you know, be right next to it, so obviously line of sight would mean that you actually need to be able to see the ability. It still is super powerful and very nice. And actually, like, the projected barrier that I have, the barrier that I can shoot forward, sort of feels a little similar to... What a mess. It sort of feels a little similar to like the Winston projected barrier too, where oftentimes you will jump forward and really try and get it into a good position for your team. It really is kind of the same principle, except that you're not going to be vulnerable yourself. So really, like, question is it enough to keep her as a support hero, right? I wouldn't even be surprised if she would be more of like a defensive hero right now that has still very, very powerful attacking capabilities. Now, this is, by the way, the harder or the hardest difficulty, I suppose, for for the AI. But really, like, I'm kind of thinking about this, right? I've been thinking about it for a little while. I wouldn't be surprised if she is gonna be more of like a defensive hero more than anything else. Oh man, the hack is kind of painful. I'm gonna actually have to back up. But I wouldn't be surprised if she's more of like a defensive hero than an attacking one. Just because, well, I mean, she doesn't necessarily support the team as much, but she still kind of does. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. A lot of people obviously complain when you play a Symmetra as like the only support on the team, and I do definitely agree with that. That it's a little bit more tricky to try and make that work just because she's not a healer and she won't be able to heal up the team. But the new ulti that she has does make her a little bit more support heavy, whereas the new shield that she has is gonna make her a little bit more, oh man, whew. It's gonna make her a little bit more defense heavy as well, where you can use her potentially for pushes. Really, obviously, categorization is just one of the least, or like one of the smallest issues you got in the game, but it still makes for an interesting setup. All things considered though, off of my limited experience with her today, she's very powerful. She's very good. She can murder people if you're not paying attention, and it seems like a lot of people will have to get used to the fact that Symmetra in one-on-one combat, in particular when you're, you know, a little bit further away than you usually have to be, in one-on-one combat, she's totally viable, and she could actually be on the aggressive team as well. Now, I'm a little too far forward here. Don't really want to go down. But it looks like with only 22 seconds remaining on the clock, we're going to be able to start pushing the enemies off of this objective, and eventually we will be able to obtain the victory here as well. So definitely a fun hero. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Do you think it's too much? I'm honestly not sure yet. I wouldn't be surprised if she is a little bit too powerful and that she may have to like get skilled down just a little bit, as I mean, it seems a little bit too much. But anyway, let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section of this video. While you are at it, definitely go ahead and hit me up with that like button as well as the subscribe button so you get a notification as soon as I upload more. And while you're at it as well, do make sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, as well as Facebook. Links are in the description. Other than that, I want to thank you all very much so for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I'll see you in the next one.